guys, if you remember about a year and a half ago I made a video called how to make music with JavaScript. Now that was a good video. I was using node.js, but it wasn't as professional sounding as I wanted it to be. I just want more synth, just more quality synths and more, just a bigger synth engine. So I'm going to be using Logic Pro in this video, and I'm going to be using JavaScript to control it. And I'm going to show you how to do all that. If you use a PC in Ableton, for example, you'll still be able to benefit from this video. Just take the general concepts that I introduced in this video. I'm not going to be live coding this. This is just, just regular coding, but you can take the ideas that I did in that first video with live coding and apply it to this if you wanted the live coding part. Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to use a virtual MIDI device. In Mac, this is called IAC, which is short for Inter-Application Communication. And basically, the way we get there is we're going to go to Audio MIDI Setup, and then go to Window, and then do Show MIDI Studio. Here, double-click on IAC Driver, and make sure that you have one of these in here. Okay, and then just hit Apply, and we're good. And now in Logic, just go to Preferences, MIDI, and go to Inputs and check that the IAC driver that we just configured is set as an input into Logic. Okay, so I just created a directory called JSBeat. Inside of it, I'm just going to put a blank index.html file. Because we're doing communication between two different processes, which will be Chrome and Logic, it's best to serve this as a server, as a static file. I mean, use a server to serve this as a static file, as opposed to using file : / to just serve this index.html. You can use file : / but it'll give you more warnings, more pop-ups and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna set up a basic server. The way I like to do this, I just like to use node.js and just install node.js, and then you'll do something like sudo npm install -g http server is the server that I use. It's a very bare bones server that's good for, just for serving up static files. So, quick note, if you want more information on HTTP server, just type in http-server /GitHub and just go to the first link, and you'll see what it's all about here. I already have that installed, so all I'm going to do is go http server -s will just suppress all the output onto the console. So that's it. Now it's running. And now if I go to Chrome and I go to localhost :8080 is the port that it's on, then I will see this index.html. Okay, so just go into Google and type in HTML5 doc type and click on the first link, copy and paste this thing, and put it here. And now, because we have this HTTP server, now, if I show localhost 8080, you'll see that it shows me the file. So we've set up the server correctly. Okay, for now, I'm just going to minimize this console. The HTTP server is going to be running here. And I'm just going to put the browser over here. And another library that we need is webmidi.js. Just type in webmidi.js in Google, and we're just going to go to the first link and search for the word CDN, and just copy and paste this thing onto your head. And we don't need this title. And we're just going to save the file. Now, we don't have to use webmidi. I mean, it'll just simplify everything, because there already is the webmidi API in the browser, but webmidi.js it sits on top of the webmidi API, and it just makes it so that we can write less code. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of this, and instead I'm going to have a div that I click on, and whenever you have audio, it's best to have a button that starts it. Well, that starts your program, or else the browser might give you some warnings about that. So I'm just going to have it, when you click on it, it's going to start something called init, a function called init. And I'm just going to give it a width and a height. A line height will make it vertically centered. Text line will make it horizontally centered. And I'm just going to give it a background and a font size, and see it. Okay, cool. So I'll just open a script tag, function init. So in this init function, that's where we're going to set up the web MIDI. So just go webmidi.enable, some kind of error if it needs it, and set the second parameter to true. That's for system messages. You probably want that. If error, I'm just going to go console.log, there was an error, and show the error. And let me also just console log webmidi.outputs. Okay, let me just refresh this and look at the console. What the? Why can't I see the console log? Oh, because I didn't press start. Okay, so see, I have like a single output, and the name is the IAC driver bus 1 that we configured before. So I'm just going to go, and I'm going to go webmidi.outputs.forEach. And for each output, I mean, this is so that if we had like multiple outputs, it's just good practice to do this. I'm just going to go if output.name is equal to IAC driver bus 1. Then I'm going to set a global output is equal to that output. And then we're just going to start some kind of loop. And I'm just going to set that function start loop. So just so you understand where I'm going with this, we have our output, right? We have this virtual MIDI device that we set it as the output in JavaScript so that we're going to write to this output. Now, whatever we write to this output, the input in Logic takes the output that we have in JavaScript, and it uses it. So that's how you communicate between these two apps, between Chrome and Logic. So right now, let me just start playing some notes and we'll see if it works. So I'm just going to set an interval, and this will just call this every second, say, and I will go output, and I can just do output dot because we have it as a global. So output dot play note, and I'm just going to do play the note C2 on channel 1. It's very good practice to give it a duration or you might run into problems. And I'm going to also give it a velocity, which is basically how hard you're playing it. You can go from 0 to 1. Okay, so let me just save that. Now, just a quick note about the settings in Logic for this to work. If you go to File, Project Settings, Recording, make sure that Auto Demix by Channel if multitrack recording is checked, or else it won't work, especially when we deal with multitrack. Now, another important thing to do is for every channel that you have, set a specific MIDI channel on it. If we create a new instrument, the MIDI channel won't be set. It will just be set to all. It won't work if it's set like that. So make sure that every channel or every instrument has a separate channel. So you do that by just clicking here and setting the channel. And if you notice, it says the channel name here. If it doesn't say the channel name, then that's bad. It should be on a specific channel. Another thing to note is that this record should be, basically every channel should be armed. Usually when you just create a track, they won't be lit up. So just shift click on the R to make sure that they're all lit up. And last, if you click here, enable patch merging, so that when you change, let's say if you're on this channel and I change like for a different bass, if I didn't have patch merging, then it would actually change the MIDI channel. And we don't want that. We wanted to keep the MIDI channel to 2 while I change different instruments. Okay, now that we configured everything, let's just check that everything works. I'm just gonna basically save this, refresh the page, and hit start. And as you see, every second it's now sending it to channel 1. Basically this this play note is happening every second. And it's sending it a C2. Now if you notice, I think there might be a little bug in webmidi, but basically I think it's like off by 1 because it's sending, even though I'm sending C2, which should be this note, it's doing it off by 1. So just make sure that you keep that in mind. And to stop this, I'm just going to go refresh, and it's going to stop. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to mimic a 16-step sequencer, and I'm going to have an image on that so you can see. But let's just configure the step. This is going to be the first step. The program itself, on every interval, it will just increase the step. And if the step is greater than 16, it will set it right back to 1. And we're going to make this a little bit faster, 180 milliseconds. So let's just set up the drums. The first one that we set up is the kick, and we're going to make it so that if the step is equal to 1 or the step is equal to 9, then it's going to play this. This is for the kick. And just go like that. And the second thing that we're going to have is the snare. If the step is equal to 5 or the step is equal to 13, then I'm going to output, well, let me just copy it from here. I'm going to play note D2 and have a slightly less duration for that. And if the step is, well, I'm just going to make it if it's odd, like if it's going to be 1, 3, 5, 7, so forth. So I'm going to do if step mode 2 is not equal to 0, then I'm going to play it. And that's going to be for the hi-hats. So, alright, hi-hat is on F#2. And you can see what these are. Well, also, I'll show you in a second. 1 second. Okay, let me just save that and refresh this. So you can see what the names are of all these things, you know, the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. And again, remember that this is like shifted by an octave due to some kind of bug. But yeah, pretty cool, right? Okay, now let me just add the, I'm gonna also add a bass line. So if step is equal to 1, I'm just gonna play some note. Don't worry about the exact notes that I'm doing right now. This is just more for show. It's going to be E3. And this is very important here. This is going to be the channel. The channel is going to be 2. Duration 500, velocity half. That's fine. And I'm just going to do a few more notes. This is going to be if step is equal to 5, if step is equal to 9 and 13. And I'm just going to do a few other different notes here. F#3 and D3. And I'm just going to set the duration here a little bit longer. A little bit shorter duration here. Let me just refresh this, press start. Okay, and just remember, if you want to stop the sound, just refresh the page with this button. And let me just add a pad sound. I'm gonna basically do the pad on step 1, and also let me also add measure. So in the beginning, we're just gonna go measure is equal to 1, and if the step is greater than 16, we're just gonna increment the measure. So the way I do this is that if step is equal to 1 and the measure is odd, again, I'm gonna do the same thing with measure mode 2 is not 0. That means it's going to be, if the measure is odd, 1, 3, 5, 7, and so forth, it's going to get into here. And the step is 1. So in that case, I'm just going to output, and let me just copy this from here. And I'm just going to play the note E1 on channel 3. This is important. And we're going to give it a longer duration right now. And maybe a velocity of half, sure. Okay, so I'm just going to save the file, and let's just start it here. So yeah, it works pretty good. And one other thing to keep in mind, you can always press record. Let me just press record right now. And don't worry that it's starting here. The moment we press stop, it's going to go to all channels. See? And so this is a this is an easy way to record. Let me just refresh the page right now so it stops the music. But see how we have all these 3 channels? We could do up to 16 of these channels. So you could control up to 16 instruments in JavaScript. So yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. And again, this is just a basic beat right now just to get you started, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do to make this sound really good now. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you soon. One last thing that I forgot to say, if you want, right now this beat is heavily quantized because it's falling at a certain time. If you want to shift the time a little bit, like for example, in this kick, if I wanted to shift the time slightly by like, I don't know, 350 milliseconds, then it could change the beat a little bit. This is like a relative time, so that way you can shift instruments a little bit so it's not as quantized. So let me just refresh this and press start. You hear that? So last thing, I mean, why would we want to create a beat this way? Why not just create it directly with Logic? Or why not just create it with hardware or something like that? Well, the reason is when you script out a beat like this, imagine how simple it is to just copy, like let's say you have like another beat to create, you just copy paste this onto like another file, you change a few values and some settings or whatever, you add a few more tracks and you already have like another beat. It's just the potential to create a bunch of stuff is much greater when you know how to code. So yeah, I mean, experiment with it, and if you have any questions, just ask me below and I'll try to get to the questions. And again, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.